Please give a warm welcome to Meghan Harrison.
One moment, please. Hi everyone, I'm Meghan Harrison, and on behalf of the Tick-Borne Disease Alliance, I would like to thank Greg Kerr for creating this wonderful event and for all he does to raise awareness about the devastating impact of tick-borne diseases. Working with others nationwide, the Tick-Borne Disease Alliance is dedicated to raising public awareness through education. It supports initiatives to find a cure for Lyme and other tick-borne diseases and creates a unified voice for advocacy in order to end the silent epidemic of tick-borne illnesses. Events like this Ticked Off Music Fest play a vital role in helping TBDA raise awareness in local communities across the country, and we are so thankful for your support. The Tick-Borne Disease Alliance asked me to share my story with you. I used to live a normal life before tick-borne diseases took over. Even when I had my swollen knees drained several times in 2003, wore a knee brace, and had several MRIs, it didn't interrupt my life too much. I also saw a pediatric migraine specialist for my insufferable migraines. Looking back, I realize now that the migraine started after I had had a tick bite, which was treated for a few weeks. But these pains were such a normal part of my life that I didn't realize how abnormal they were, and my doctors didn't connect them with Lyme disease. November 2008 changed my life forever. During swim season of my sophomore year, I started having constant nausea, which made eating incredibly difficult. I became so fatigued that it was a struggle to just pull myself through the water. Over winter break, I decided to quit the varsity team so my body could recover for rowing season in the spring, which was my main sport. Then, in January, I lost my short-term memory overnight. School tests were impossible since everything I learned disappeared after 2 hours. It was so bad that when I got home from school, I had no idea that I'd been there that day, and I had to rely solely on my notes to do my homework each night. Even with my friends, 2 hours after eating lunch, I couldn't remember who I'd eaten with or what we talked about. Friends constantly repeated conversations, and I endured 6 months of amnesia-erased memories, even of the prom. I became a guinea pig to cardiologists, gastroenterologists, and neurologists as they ran countless tests. My symptoms began to increase, and I started having insomnia and abdominal stabbing pains that would double me over. While the doctors tried to figure out what was wrong with me, I was given some very odd advice. One doctor said that my gallbladder should be removed. Another told me that I should go back to rowing since all that was wrong with me was that I missed my sport. All the doctors and specialists kept trying to figure out what was wrong. My mom was doing her own research at the time because we were getting nowhere. And when she came up with Lyme disease as a possible explanation, I had had a tick bite in 2005 that was treated for several weeks, she suggested that this might be considered. But instead, the doctors refused to test me for Lyme disease because I didn't have the classic arthritis symptoms at that time. In May, I was finally tested and diagnosed with Lyme disease. We had been to great academic hospitals in our region, but it was my family doctor that helped us get to the bottom of this. When the test came back, he called and said there was no doubt about it. I had Lyme disease. After being a lab rat for so long, I had answers, but still no memory. In July of 2009, my memory returned after IV antibiotics, and then I was pulled off all treatment. I began fainting, having black spots in my vision, and word finding became difficult. However, I still was able to complete 2 school courses in August. By September, I dealt with encephalitis, 2 days of blindness, and a month-long migraine. Sleeping only 10 to 12 hours per week, I was a zombie for months. Acupuncture was the highlight of my week, relieving some pain. During this time, my life was not my own. Rowing, modeling, and robotics, 3 of my favorite activities, were not possible. My peers talked about school, boys, and colleges, but my expertise was in needles, nausea, and pain. For the longest time, I dreamed of being normal again. I began writing a silly teen novel, and my mom suggested that I make one of my characters a Lyme patient. But my imagination was my safe haven during my illness, especially when I was bedridden, and I wanted all my characters to be healthy and normal. Only in my writing could I experience a normal teen life. Now I realize that normalcy is overrated, but when you feel so out of place, you just want to be Clark Kent, not Superman. During this journey, I had hope. Even at the worst, God gave me peace. Throughout this illness, I believed God had a purpose for my life and that somehow good could come from all the devastation. My path to stay positive became reviewing my daily blessings and helping others, which brought amazing opportunities and gave me purpose. In 2010, the president of Montco Lyme asked me to run a Lyme walk for youth to raise awareness. Since many Lyme youth couldn't walk a mile, I envisioned a catwalk instead, and the Limelight Fashion Show was born. Through the show, I was privileged to work with New York designers Alexandria Hilfiger and Nari Monahan, as well as Norma Kamali. Lyme youth were the spirit of the show. They strutted on the runway along with professional models. For some, it was the first time meeting others who understood what they'd been through. I wish you could meet the brave Lyme youth who modeled in the fashion show during the 3 years I ran it. They know the meaning of the word courage. I'd like to briefly share a few of their stories since the symptoms are quite different from mine. What they all have in common is how much they've lost. Like me, many of them went undiagnosed for a long time, or they were misdiagnosed. One of the models in last year's fashion show had been wheelchair-bound and couldn't speak for 2 years. After being treated for tick-borne diseases, she was able to speak from the podium and model at the fashion show. You would never have guessed she had been so ill, except that she had missed several years of school. A friend of mine with tick-borne diseases was too sick to go away to college, so he decided to attend the local community college. He did well at first, but then his health really started going downhill. He would start walking to a building from the parking lot, and his legs would simply give out on him. He'd have to wait until he had the strength to move again. His brain became foggy, and his grades dropped. Sadly, he had to withdraw from school. Now that he is finally seeing a knowledgeable Lyme doctor, he is improving, but he has a long road ahead of him. He spent months flat on his back when he is supposed to be in the prime of his life. Julia Wagner runs the Pennsylvania Lyme Resource Network, and she is incredibly intelligent and a great communicator. She had her own consulting company working with CEOs all over the world. Before her Lyme and Babesia were diagnosed and treated, she became so ill that she couldn't string a coherent sentence together. She had to quit work for over a year and a half. All 3 of her children lost their second language, even though their dad spoke it regularly at home. Her daughter had hypersensitive skin, and at times she couldn't wear any clothes at all and had to lay in bed and just suffer. Her youngest son began dragging his foot behind him. After being treated for tick-borne diseases, their major symptoms went away, and they had a documented increase in their IQs of 26 and 16 points. It makes me wonder how many children diagnosed with ADHD or special needs actually might have tick-borne illnesses that could be treated. One young girl around 10 years old was perfectly normal. Suddenly, she began having psychiatric problems. She was unable to be in school, and her mom couldn't even take her shopping without her creating a scene. She saw a psychiatrist who ran a battery of tests. Lyme was the only one that came back positive, so the psychiatrist treated her, even though she didn't think that Lyme was causing the problems. However, after treatment with antibiotics, the girl was perfectly normal again. Some kids I've met have suffered with seizures, and one was having them constantly throughout the day. After showing up many times at various hospital emergency rooms without receiving a diagnosis, the hospital personnel started suspecting child abuse. It turned out to be Lyme and other tick-borne diseases causing her problems, and after treatment by a knowledgeable Lyme doctor, the seizures are gone, but the accusations devastated her family. Another model in the show last year was wheelchair-bound. She was misdiagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis for years and was given immunosuppressants, which are contraindicated for Lyme disease. When the mom decided to take her daughter off of them because they weren't doing any good, she was threatened with child abuse by the specialist her daughter was seeing. So the girl remained on the wrong medication for an extra year. Finally, she saw a knowledgeable Lyme specialist and was diagnosed with several tick-borne diseases. She is now improving, but her joints were severely damaged, and she may never be able to walk again. Before her tick-borne diseases, she was a talented dancer. Unfortunately, these stories are not isolated, and tick-borne disease symptoms are quite diverse. I've heard the discouragement in kids' voices when they are suffering and are being told it's all in their head. I don't know anyone that wants to make up the symptoms Lyme sufferers go through, especially not children. All they want to do is get well, and instead of helping them, some doctors are attacking their credibility or sending them to psychiatrists. It is so sad that youth suffer because of misdiagnoses and inadequate treatment from practitioners who don't understand Lyme. So much of this suffering is unnecessary and costly too. Homebound students may require tutors, and other Lyme youth I know have been sent to special needs schools. To prevent more of this, good tick surveillance and public warnings are needed. Many people still have no clue how horrific the symptoms can be if they are not dealt with right away. We need to raise awareness and help prevent these diseases in the first place. We also have to educate doctors. New research that has come out in the last 10 years is changing the way these emerging diseases are being diagnosed and treated. Doctors need to be trained to look for the right symptoms and to know how to treat these diseases effectively. There is so much that can be done. I will continue to help prevent others from going through what I have. When you think about whether or not to take action, remember the injustice children of these diseases suffer in our current medical system. Remember their pain, remember their unfulfilled potential, and never give up the cause. For those of you who want to learn more about the Tick-Borne Disease Alliance, visit tbdalliance.org, and you can connect with them on Facebook or on Twitter. Thank you very much for your time.